Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let's dive in. The morning she left, I found a crayon stuck in the toaster, and one of our twins had drawn a smiley face on the TV with strawberry jam. That should have been the worst part of my day. It wasn't even close. There was a note on the fridge. Not handwritten, not personal, just a printed out itinerary and the words, "Please don't make this dramatic. No kiss goodbye. No, I love you." No explanations. Just a woman-shaped gap in our kitchen and 3 children screaming for pancakes. I stood there, holding a cold spatula, wondering if this was a joke. I actually laughed. Out loud. Like, surely she forgot to mention this trip last night. Surely she was just running errands and left the wrong paper on the fridge. But nope. The Uber notification popped up on her iPad a few minutes later. Terminal 3. Destination, Honolulu. That's when the nausea kicked in. I'm not built for solo parenting. I'm barely built for parenting with backup. And yet there I was. No warning, no plan, no sitter, no explanation. Just me, 3 kids under 10, and a breakfast table covered in syrup and betrayal. You know what's funny? The first time she went to Hawaii, I proposed to her. We were young, broke, and I had to sell my drum set to afford the ring. She said yes on a beach at sunset while eating a fish taco. Now, she's eating poke bowls with someone else and leaving me with kids who think ketchup is a food group. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I just waited. Waited to see if she'd message me. She didn't. Instead, I got a photo. A picture posted to her stories. Her in a bikini I'd never seen before, laughing in the arms of a guy with a man bun and abs that looked like he sleeps in a gym. The caption? Living. Cool. Meanwhile, Callie was crying because her imaginary friend got locked outside. Owen was demanding I sign a permission slip I hadn't even read, and Noah threw a shoe into the toilet. This wasn't just a vacation. It was an escape. A clean break. I wouldn't have believed it until I saw what came next. Later that night, while looking for her laptop charger, because mine was fried, I opened her MacBook. It auto-connected to hotel Wi-Fi and opened the tab she forgot to close. It was a message thread. Not with her sister. Not with her mom. With him. Braden. I shouldn't have read it. I really shouldn't have scrolled up. But I did. And what I read changed everything. So, there I was, staring at her open laptop, heart in my throat, trying to decide if I had the stomach to scroll. Of course I did. Curiosity beats pride when your world's on fire. The messages weren't just casual. They were intimate. Way too intimate for a woman who swore she just needed space. She wasn't in Hawaii to journal and meditate on a mountaintop. She was there with Braden, some adventure photographer from California who apparently understood her energy. I swear I almost vomited. He called her my golden hour girl. She told him she couldn't wait to wake up beside him again. Again. As in, this wasn't their first time. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it woke Levi, who started wailing from his nap. And suddenly, I was back in dad mode. Wipe the tears. Warm up the milk. Sing off-key lullabies while your wife's sipping cocktails on a balcony with someone who smells like coconut oil and betrayal. The days that followed were brutal. I was an exhausted, broken man operating on cereal crumbs and spite. But I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends. Not her parents. Not even my brother. Especially not my brother, who would have probably offered to take care of Braden with a shovel and a truck. I stayed silent because part of me still wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe there was some explanation that didn't involve complete emotional abandonment. But then came the voicemail. 3 days before she was due back, she called. Not to talk to the kids. Not to check on me. She called to leave a voicemail because she didn't feel strong enough to say it live. Her voice trembled. She said she felt confused, that she'd been doing a lot of thinking, and that maybe this wasn't just a trip. I think I need to figure out who I am without being a mother or a wife for a while, she said. Please don't hate me, Milton. I didn't hate her. That would have been easier. What I felt was worse. I felt replaceable. Like a pair of worn-out shoes she left by the door while she danced barefoot across Hawaiian beaches. I didn't respond. Not right away. Instead, I started planning. Not revenge. I'm not that guy. But clarity? Yeah. I started building that. One step at a time. I washed the sheets. Changed the locks. Canceled her credit card. Then I booked a family photo session for me and the kids. One of those cheesy backyard shoots. I didn't smile in a single one. I just held the kids close, like I was clinging to the last pieces of a life I didn't recognize anymore. And when Dana finally walked through that front door with her sun-kissed skin and overstuffed duffel bag, she wasn't met with a hug. She was met with silence and a printed photo taped to the wall. Me, Owen, Callie, and Levi, captioned in Sharpie. The ones who stayed. The moment Dana stepped inside, the air in the house shifted. She hesitated in the doorway like a stranger walking into someone else's life. Her tan looked out of place against the gray of our entryway, like she'd been plucked from a postcard and dropped into a war zone. She didn't speak right away. She just stood there, eyes darting around, at the now-clean kitchen, the scribbled drawings taped to the fridge, the duffel bag I'd packed for her sitting neatly on the couch, zipped shut. She opened her mouth once, closed it again. Then finally, "You changed the locks." I didn't answer. I just pointed to the photo on the wall, the one of me and the kids, our faces solemn, our eyes tired. I'd taped it right beside the thermostat where she couldn't miss it. Underneath it, in Sharpie, the words, "The ones who stayed." She flinched like I'd slapped her. To be fair, I hadn't planned what to say. I'd gone over it in my head a dozen times, scripting out monologues in the shower like some low-budget soap opera character. But when she was finally in front of me, all of it disappeared. All I could do was look at her and think, how did we get here? This wasn't supposed to be our story. We were supposed to grow old watching bad TV and arguing about where to order dinner from. Not this. Dana sat down slowly, like the couch might collapse under her. Her voice was small when she said, "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." I almost laughed, the audacity of it. I asked her if Braden was the plan all along, or just a spontaneous bonus. Her face drained of color. That told me everything I needed to know. She said they'd met at a photography workshop, that she didn't intend to feel things, that she thought she was just reclaiming her identity. I asked if that identity involved erasing her kids' faces from her memory while she played barefoot goddess on some volcanic island. She started crying. I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. She begged me not to tell the kids anything, said she made a mistake, that she panicked, that she didn't want to lose everything. I told her she already had. But what came next wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was something worse. It was my silence. And that silence broke her more than any scream ever could. The first night she was back, she slept in the guest room. I didn't suggest it. I didn't have to. The house made it clear. The way Owen wouldn't even look at her. The way Callie whispered, "Is she staying?" Like we had a ghost living with us. And the way Levi clung to me like he didn't recognize her scent anymore. I wish I could say I felt triumphant watching her unravel, but what I felt was more complicated. There was still this ache, this echo of the life we'd built together. But the reality was louder and crueler. Dana spent the next morning trying to reinsert herself like nothing happened. She made eggs. She offered to drive Owen to school. She sat beside Callie during her coloring time. But the kids weren't dumb. Owen left his plate untouched. Callie quietly got up and moved her markers to the other side of the table. Levi wouldn't even let her hold him. It was like they all remembered what I did, who changed diapers, who stayed up with nightmares, who found the missing teddy bear at 3 a.m. when she was sipping Mai Tais on a rooftop bar. Later that day, I found her standing in our bedroom, staring at the closet. Half of it was empty. She turned to me and asked, "So what? Are you just throwing me out now?" I told her no. She threw herself out the moment she chose Braden over her own children. And that the version of her who left us? She doesn't get to come back and pretend she's the same person. That woman was someone else. Someone who made a choice. Dana tried to say she felt trapped before the trip, that she was drowning. And I asked her what she thought I was doing all this time, swimming laps. She didn't answer. Instead, she sat down on the edge of the bed and buried her face in her hands. That's when I told her the truth, the part one hadn't said aloud yet. That I wasn't sure I loved her anymore. That I didn't know if I ever could again. Because love, to me, doesn't leave without a plan. It doesn't vanish without warning. It doesn't come back with sand between its toes and lipstick smudged across a suitcase full of guilt. Her sobs were quiet, controlled. The kind of crying you do when you're mourning something still alive. But I didn't reach for her. Because that's when I realized something painful. Maybe the man she left behind in that kitchen, 3 kids deep in cereal and chaos, never really came back either. 2 days after her return, she sat the kids down for what she called a family circle. It was supposed to be her heartfelt confession. Instead, It was a carefully choreographed performance. She told them Mommy had been sad, that she needed time to recharge, and that sometimes grown-ups take space to be better parents. Owen stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Callie clutched my arm so tight I could feel her little nails dig in. Levi tried to crawl out of her lap 3 times. Dana kept smiling. Fake. Forced. Like if she smiled hard enough, we'd forget she was gone. That night, Owen came into my room and asked me the question I was dreading. Did Mom leave because of us? That question shattered me. I told him no, that it had nothing to do with him or his siblings. But he didn't believe me. Kids don't need words. They read between silences. And Dana's absence had screamed louder than anything. Meanwhile, Braden, the human midlife crisis, was still in the picture. I knew because she thought she was being slick. Late-night walks around the block. Whispers behind the bathroom door. A second phone she thought I didn't know about tucked in her coat pocket. I wasn't spying. I was surviving. And part of that meant preparing for whatever bombshell was still coming. It came faster than I expected. She walked into the living room with that second phone in her hand, cheeks red, eyes wide. He's coming here, she said. Braden. He wants to talk. He says it's important. My heart stopped. Not out of fear, but disbelief. She was going to bring him into our home, into the place where our children live, sleep, play, the place I'd kept from falling apart while she was off, finding herself in someone else's arms. I told her no. I didn't shout. I just said it calmly, firmly, like a door closing. He steps foot on this property, I'll have him removed. I don't care how spiritual his intentions are. She accused me of being controlling. I told her it's not control, it's boundaries. Something she clearly never learned. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked me to, but because the smell of her perfume made me sick. After I made it clear that Braden wasn't welcome, I expected some distance, some shame, maybe even an apology. But instead, Dana got cold. Not angry. Cold. Like I had insulted her religion by refusing to invite her new prophet into our home. For 2 days, she barely spoke to me. She didn't yell or argue. She just disappeared again, except this time, from inside the house. She cooked meals and left them on the counter without a word. She loaded the dishwasher like she was performing in a silent film. And she looked at me like I was the problem. Like I had ruined her fantasy of an enlightened, pain-free transition from wife and mother to free spirit rediscovering her truth. Then I got the email. A generic one. It was from a family counselor. Subject line, initial session request, couples processing separation. I hadn't agreed to therapy. I hadn't even heard the word separation from her mouth. But she had gone ahead and booked it, for both of us. She sent it with a smiley face in the message. Just trying to make things less tense around the kids, smiley face. I didn't reply. I forwarded the email to my personal lawyer instead. Because if she was going to play the game of appearances, I was going to play the game of preparation. The weirdest part? She was shocked that I didn't want to work things out. As if her betrayal was just a miscommunication. As if abandoning me with 3 overwhelmed children and then jumping into someone else's bed could be fixed with a few affirmations and breathing exercises. She even said, "You're being really rigid, Milton. I didn't expect you to be so bitter." That word stuck to me like oil. Bitter? I was doing homework in my lap, while cooking dinner on one burner and wiping spit up off my shirt with the other hand. And I was the bitter one? But then the worst line came. I'll never forget it. She said, "Braden listens to me. He doesn't make me feel small." I didn't respond. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something that I hadn't let myself think until that moment. She never wanted to come back. Not really. She just wanted to be welcomed back. And when she wasn't, when I didn't fold, she turned her guilt into resentment and wore it like armor. So I stopped trying. I stopped filling in the gaps for her. I let the silence grow, and that silence started making her panic. She didn't know it yet, but I had already taken the next step. By the end of that week, Dana wasn't floating around the house like a serene yoga instructor anymore. Her silence turned into pacing, nervous questions, unprompted explanations. She started hovering behind me while I packed lunches, offering to help with things I'd long since figured out without her. She even left a sticky note on my coffee mug that said, "You're doing a great job." It felt more like a confession than a compliment. I didn't acknowledge it. I had spent every night that week writing everything down, dates, messages, receipts, screenshots. Not for revenge, Not even for a custody battle. I just needed to see it all in front of me. Proof that I hadn't imagined the betrayal. That this wasn't some overreaction. That I wasn't just a bitter husband whose wife needed space. No, this was premeditated abandonment, emotional infidelity, and a total demolition of the life we were supposed to be building together. And it was all there in black and white. I kept it in a folder marked Hurricane Recovery. Seemed appropriate. Dana asked me one night, "Why are you so cold lately? You used to cry when I was upset." And I wanted to laugh. Because she was right, I used to. Before I realized those tears only ever bought her more space to run. This time, I didn't cry. I watched. I listened. And I prepared. Because I'd had enough of being her emotional janitor. Then the call came. Her sister, Brielle. Voice sharp, angry. "What the hell is going on?" Dana called me sobbing, saying you're trying to take the kids away. I told her calmly, "I'm not trying to take them. I've already raised them alone for 10 days. She just happened to come back." Brielle went quiet, then said, "Milton, did you check her bank account?" That was the moment my stomach dropped. I logged into our shared account. Half gone. Gone. She had wired $18,000 to a savings account I didn't recognize. I checked the transfer history. 2 days after Hawaii. 2 days after Braden. I confronted her, shaking with disbelief, and all she said was, "I thought we agreed to start separating. I needed something secure. In case. In case." Like I was a threat. Like I was a storm she needed shelter from. That night, I locked the folder. Called my lawyer again. And this time, I didn't just ask questions. I gave instructions. And then, the final domino fell. She found the draft. The printed divorce petition I had tucked in my drawer behind the batteries and old receipts. She came into the kitchen holding it with trembling hands. Eyes red, voice barely above a whisper. "You're really doing this?" I nodded. And then she said something that almost made me falter. "Please, just don't tell the kids the truth about me." But it was never going to be me who told them. It was always going to be her silence that did. When Dana stood in the kitchen holding that divorce draft, I thought she'd explode. I thought the tears would turn into rage or a last-ditch attempt to guilt me. But instead, she crumbled. Not with drama. With regret. The real kind. The kind that hits people when they realize no one's chasing them anymore. She sat at the table for an hour while I bathed the kids and read them bedtime stories like nothing had happened. And when I came back down, she was still there. Same spot. Same posture. Like the chair had become part of her. "I never thought you'd actually stop loving me," she said. I told her I didn't stop loving her. I just stopped trusting her. There's a difference. One you can't undo with apologies. But here's the twist most people won't expect. I didn't go nuclear. I didn't ruin her in court. I didn't turn the kids against her. I did something better. I gave her space. Real space. Not the kind she took in Hawaii. The kind where I said, "Go figure yourself out. Alone. Without me. Without them. You can't rebuild a family on broken trust." I stayed in the house. She moved in with her sister temporarily. And for the first time in years, I stopped waiting for someone to fix me. I focused on my kids. I focused on myself. I got help. I cried during a therapy session about cereal. Yes, cereal. Because it reminded me of mornings before everything fell apart. But I healed. Slowly. Honestly. 2 months passed. And then something unexpected happened. Dana wrote each of our kids a letter. Not one of those filtered apologies. Real ones. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't blame burnout or finding herself. She just owned it. All of it. And for the first time, Owen hugged her without hesitation. "We're not back together. And we might never be. But we're better people now. Not perfect, but honest. The kids are okay. I'm okay." And she, well, she finally realized that happiness isn't found on beaches or in someone else's arms. It's built, one chaotic morning at a time. And me? I'm still the guy crying during movie trailers, making spreadsheets for lunch prep, and over-apologizing to the Roomba. But now, I do it without shame. Because I know my worth. And I'll never let anyone forget it again. What's one historical event that changed the course of your life? Or someone else's? Share your stories in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for following the journey here on Reddit Confessions. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share your own truth. Because sometimes, the best healing comes from being heard.